it's Ronnie, and here I am after a really long hiatus of podcast creation. I am so sorry. It was kind of literally from April through now was a big blur. I had both kids during the summer, fit blog and planning, and then the conference hit fast and furious, and now it's October. I don't really know what happened between June and September. I'm not sure. It was a huge blur. But anyway, I'm back. I'm doing a podcast today. I have lots of questions to answer. They keep coming in, and then I feel guilty, and I'm trying to respond to some personally, but it's getting hard. It is. I'm trying to keep up the best I can, so please forgive me if you've sent an email and I haven't responded. I try my best. I really do. So that being said, I'm going to try to get right to these questions. I honestly don't know even how much time I have right now because I have a babysitter I have childcare on Tuesdays and Thursdays only. I have to jam everything I can possibly do. But normally they're in the house, so I can't even really record a podcast in the house because my office is open. So it's not like I can close the door in a soundproof room and just record. So it's pretty bad. So I'm going to get through as much as I possibly can. And just know I'm going to do my best to do fairly regular podcasts, but I'm not going to make promises to like monthly or anything, although that is my goal. I can't help but make a promise. It's really funny. All right, so let's get right to them. The first question is from Amelia, and she asks one of my favorite, funniest questions I think ever. So let me get ready. She says, "Hi, Ronnie. I love your site. I see that you are happily married to a picky person." Thankfully, the husband is not in earshot right now. "I am moving in with my ultra picky boyfriend and was wondering if you had any advice on how to handle a picky adult male. I love to cook, and it's super fun for me to try new things and experiment, and I'm afraid I'm going to feel like he is ruining my fun. Also, he eats out most of the time and is an unhealthy eater overall. I really tried to cook healthily, and if he wants me to leave out the healthy in order to eat it, I'm not going to like that. I have a hard enough time getting my veggies in as it is, so I like to sneak them in on myself. Do you have any advice?" Okay. I do love this question because I am married to a picky husband, and I've been feeding him now. We've been married 11 years. We've been together 17 years, and so I've been kind of the food pusher for a good 17 years, and he's changed this much. Actually, I'm pretty proud of him. He's grown to like eat vegetables I would have never imagined him eating, like Brussels sprouts and beets and asparagus. But it was a slow, steady influence of me just continuously making them anyway. So my advice is, if you have a significant other who is a picky eater, the word of the day is compromise. So what I've learned and what works best for me is if I do want to try, because like you, I love experimenting in the kitchen. I like to throw stuff in a pot and whatever comes out, good or bad, I'll eat it. It's not that big of a deal to me. I like the challenge of it. I think it's fun. It's creative. It's an outlet. And sometimes, actually, I get upset because he doesn't share that passion or that interest. So I'll be really proud of something. Like I would whip up this dish, and it's just fabulous, and it's loaded with vegetables, and it's delicious, and it's amazing. At least I think so. And then he'll take a bite, and he'll go, "It's all right. Yeah, like I wouldn't order it in a restaurant, but it's pretty good." I could see other people liking it. And I'm just like, I wish he could share my passion. But then I remember, it's not his passion, it's my passion. And then I try to be a little bit more, understanding of that and just keep that in the back of my mind. But when it comes to actually making meals, and I'm balancing 2 kids in there as well, which the second kid did add a whole nother element of difficultness. But I think it comes down to compromise. So my technique generally is if I want to try something new, like let's say I want to try a new kale dish or something with a squash or something that's a little outside of his comfort zone, I pair it with something that's inside his comfort zone. So maybe I'll make some crispy kale on the side of a steak. Or I'll make macaroni and cheese but make chicken in some new fun way, or stuff it with something fun, or you know what I mean? So I think as long as you approach it in a way in which you're not plopping a dish in front of him that just is loaded with stuff he's never going to be interested in eating, well, you're setting yourself up to fail. And actually, we used to have arguments about that. And my husband kind of made me realize, he goes, well, if you know I'm not going to like it, why are you cooking it? Which I can kind of understand. But on my side of the story, I'm like, well, I want to cook something that I also want to like, and I don't want to always make chicken, mashed potatoes, and burgers, which is our entire diet if it was up to him. So there's compromise there, and there's definitely sharing. So I would do the pairing thing. Do one thing he's going to like alongside of something that's more experimental. And what you might find is they slowly start to enjoy the things that you're kind of interjecting in their diet. Like, for example, beets. I have the funniest post. I'll link to it under the video, where I was starting to get beets from the farmer's market, like the CSA that I belong to. And now I'm not inherently a beet eater myself, but I was given these beets and we needed to eat them. I'm not going to throw them away. So I roasted beets. And his facial expression when I told him we were having beets is priceless. Like, he's like, beets, really? Like he was 10 years old, and so I roasted the beets and I put a little olive oil on them and some kosher salt, and I cut them up and I put them on the plate. And to his surprise and mine, he liked them. The 7-year-old liked them. And now we eat beets fairly regularly. So it was one of those, like, see, you never know, you might like it. So, but I made the beets with like chicken legs and something else that he likes. I can't remember. So that way, if he didn't like the beets, he didn't eat them, and then I would eat them. So that's my advice, Amelia. It is a little bit of a juggling act, and there is part of me that wishes I was married to somebody who appreciated food as much as I do. But I didn't. And you don't seem like you're in a relationship with somebody who does. So it's something that you kind of just have to work with. And I think if you take it on as a challenge, like I really do take it as a challenge too sometimes. Like, oh, I'm going to make these asparaguses in such a way that he is going to like them. Or, let's try quiche for dinner. It's something new and different, and that's something he would have never thought of. And so I also make sure not to hit too many nights in a row where I'm going out on a limb. So like I'll have like burger night and then taco night, which are like safe things, and then some crazy thing I'm experimenting with. And then I'll have some, hot dog night or something. So intermix it so you're constantly, it's not constantly asking him to eat things that he doesn't want to eat. So that's my advice. I think it's a fun challenge. It's all in the way you approach things. You could see it as something that's negative, or you can look at it and kind of have fun with it and involve him. If he's into it, because my husband's definitely not into it. But again, I would love if he wasn't into it, and I involve the kids as much as possible, and that helps too. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Next question is from Amy, and Amy says, I started on a weight loss journey 4 months ago, and now I'm down 33 months. Now, mind you, these are in the past. So Amy is writing this in March. I've been wanting to become a runner for some time, but I guess didn't have the motivation to do so. Well, I am now trying to get there and become a runner. I need your advice. How did you start? How did you fight through the feeling that you can't breathe? Maybe you didn't have that feeling. I know I am breathing, but I feel like I can't. I know it's more mental than physical. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much. Okay, Amy. Love these questions, because yes, I'm a runner, and it took me 4 years to say that. So here's my advice. Yes, first of all, I did go through a stage where I can't breathe, and they still sometimes struggling with your breathing. And I think, personally for me, breathing and learning how to manage your breath or out-of-breathness is really the key to running. And what I would say is, and what I've learned, is that your initial, like, when you first start to run, you're trying to run too fast. It usually comes down to run fast. You need to slow down and find a pace in which you aren't out of breath very quickly, and where you can maintain that pace for a longer distance, like a quarter mile or a half a mile or a mile. And what you'll find is, once you figure out that spot, that kind of sweet spot where you're not huffing and puffing, but you're breathing heavy, and it may be fairly difficult to hold a conversation, but you're in a trotter's pace, then that's where you start. And then you can always kind of try to work up on your pace. Like for me, the best thing that ever works, that helps me increase my pace, is to run at the end of a run fast as I possibly can. So after I run 3 miles and then I have 400 meters left or whatever, I try to kick up the pace then. And I always notice that the next time I run, that has helped me up my pace just a little bit more. So I think my advice is to be patient with yourself. Don't think that you need to come out of the gates running at top speed. This isn't a sprint. And I don't know, I guess my pun is intended here, but it's not a race. You just have to find a comfortable pace in which you can maintain for longer distances. And you'll surprise yourself. I mean, I can really sit down and remember the feeling that I would never be able to run 2 miles. And then I did. And then I realized I'm gonna get emotional even thinking about this. I remember thinking I signed up for the 2008 Baltimore Marathon relay. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm going to run 6.5 miles. That's impossible. And I did it. And then I signed up for a 10 miler, then a half marathon, and then a full marathon. I'm actually wearing my full marathon shirt. So you will surprise yourself, but you have to do it at a pace in which your body is almost prepared to do it at. You can, of course, push yourself. I'm not really into running to break records or to push myself into peak physical performance. I'm into running because it's a release. It's a form of exercise. It makes me feel good. It's an outlet. It's something I do just for me without a phone or a kid at my side. So for all of those reasons, that's why I'm doing it. Do I love to see myself get faster or to be able to go longer? Yes, but I'm also not into it for beating any world records or anything like that. So my suggestion, again, find your pace, go slower than you really think you are until you can maintain it longer, and you'll start to find a groove. And I don't know, you don't mention whether or not you're running outside or on a treadmill. So you asked how I started. Literally, I don't know if my start is a little non-traditional. I started working out and taking things like spinning and step and aerobic classes like in the Y. And I always figured I can't run. I'm not a runner. I literally said I'm not a runner. And anytime anyone asked me would I run, I told them they were crazy because I'm not a runner. Even when I was already starting to exercise and get more physically fit. And then I became friends with a trainer, and she said, you should really think about doing a 5K. And I told her she was nuts. I said, you're crazy. I'm not a runner. I can't run. But I took on the challenge anyway, and I set the treadmill to 5K, to the 3 miles or whatever. And I think I maintained like a trotter's pace. Like I think it definitely wasn't 7 miles per hour. It was more like 6 miles per hour. Or I don't even remember. It's literally been 5 years ago. But I remember thinking I covered the distance on the treadmill. Like I was able to do it. I could probably dig up a post where I literally think I named the post, "Holy shit, I just ran 5K." Like it was that mind-blowing to me. And then I started to move things outside because I was like, okay, the race is outside. I better start running outside. And running outside was hard. And I was out of breath and I couldn't figure out. And then I just started to slow down and find my own pace. So I didn't follow a plan, and not that I'm against them. I think they're great. My own personal history kind of happened in almost a haphazardly way. And then once I ran that first 5K, hooked. Totally hooked on the energy and the emotion of crossing the finish line, and totally hooked. So I would suggest as well as signing up for a 5K and then maybe doing like a program and getting yourself up to that 5K pace. So don't worry about being out of breath. Everybody's out of breath when they start. It's just a matter of finding that pace that works for you. Well, I can really babble about this forever, I think. It's funny how much I enjoy running. I've run now the last 3 days, and I've just signed up for the Baltimore Running Festival's half marathon. It's literally next weekend. I'm a little crazy because I'm definitely not prepared for a half marathon right now by any means. I kind of, with the summer and my schedule and the conference, I really haven't run consistently. So now I'm like, okay, I need to start running like 4 or 5 days a week at least to, and it's doing, for me, events do have a purpose, and their purpose is to keep me motivated, and it's gotten me motivated. And so now I got out there, I ran 7 miles this weekend. I'm hoping to do 10 miles this coming weekend, and then next weekend is the half. So for me, it's the events kind of give me something to strive for. And again, not that I'm going to win the event, not that I'm going to have my personal best all the time, but I just enjoy the atmosphere there, and it's inspiring and it's motivating to be around a bunch of people that are just doing this physical thing together. It's very great. I'm a little bit of a sap, so You have to understand that about me. Okay, I'm going to move on. I feel like I'm talking too fast. Am I talking too fast? I feel like I am. Okay, this one is a longer one. I have no idea what the category is. I'm kind of gathering a few that all are similar for the end, and I'm going to end with those. So I'm going to skip ahead to this one. So this question is from Patricia, and Patricia says, "Hi, Ronnie. I started Weight Watchers in January." She's writing this in February. "My husband and I are doing it together, and it is amazing how much a difference going into Weight Watchers with your spouse is." Oh, I can imagine having, like, I would love it if my husband was my even workout partner, but he doesn't. We just have to, anyway. Let's see. "We do it online. We do not go to meetings. So far, I've lost 8 pounds. At about 182 now, I'm 5'2", and I'm 30 years old. And my husband lost 12 pounds. We are happy with the plan and want to stick with it. My husband is very disciplined with the plan, and when I mentioned to him that I am scared that I will not weigh less than 180 pounds, and I'm scared that I'll give up, he thinks I'm crazy. I have this weird voice in my head saying that I will never get past the 180s. I have spent most of my life at 180, even though I have gained and lost along the way. I always remember being a teenager weighing about 180. About 10 years ago, I was at a very healthy 150, and I was so happy with myself. I was working out, eating well, and counting calories. Then I let it all go. I was happy for about 6 months while I was losing it, but then I let it all go, and my weight creeps back up to 180. My husband and I have lost weight in the past working out together, but we let it all go again. Last year, I tried Weight Watchers by myself, lost about 10 pounds, and then gave up. I don't want to let go. I'm sorry. I don't want to let this go this time. Doing it alongside my husband is really amazing. Is really an amazing difference from when I was trying to do it by myself and counting points by myself. I'm 30 and want to get pregnant and have a baby and do not want to be pregnant being over 200 pounds. I know that is not good for me or the baby, and I know that after giving birth that if I'm heavier than I am now, that I will be miserable. I don't know what I'm asking you. I just hope you understand my anxiety with being scared about never being less than 180. I love your sites. I've been reading you for years. Thank you." Okay. Well, thank you, Patricia, for reading. And I do know where you're coming from. And I think you have this kind of unhealthy attachment to this number because it's like you're settled in weight. Do you know what I mean? And I have this. For me, it's 165. I remember. It's funny, I have two. I have 150 and 165 as well. But 165 was about what I started, my average weight all through college. And it was like, it was where I ended up. My weight would creep up, and then I would start to do unhealthy, crash diety kind of things and yo-yo, and I would maybe swing down below 165, 160, 155. I remember when I hit 155 with Atkins, and I was on cloud 9. But then I would let it go, and I would go back up, and I would sit around 165 before I lost it, and I would go back up to 180, 190, and then I would come back down. And I had this wave, but what number drove through the wave was 165 for me. And if someone would ask me what's your average weight, in your 20s, I would say 165. I believe I was 165 when I got married. So I understand this kind of fear and attachment to a number, and it acts almost like a barrier, and it feels like maybe that's where I'm supposed to be. Maybe that's where my body is. And there's maybe some truth to that's where you kind of tend to settle. But what I'm hearing or reading in your email is that cycle where you get motivated and maybe you do something with your husband and you start working out and then you guys let it go and then you gain a little bit more weight back. And so you're in that pattern as well. And what I would say is you have to stop your preoccupation with a specific number on the scale. And I'm one to talk because I'm slightly right now. I weighed myself this morning, which is the day before weigh-in, which I shouldn't have done, but I did it anyway because I'm slightly preoccupied with the number on a scale. And I weighed 149.2. And I have to admit, there was this little part of me that is, how do I say this? It put a smile on my face because there's a 4 there. Just because there's a 4 there. Because being that my average was 165, and then my previous low was 150. Like I literally set my Weight Watchers goal at 149 because I've never saw a 4 on the scale. I don't even remember being a freshman in high school and seeing a 4 on the scale. pretty sure I turned 150 at age 12, and that was, and I was mortified to be 150 at 12. Like I can tell you stories and how chubby I felt compared to all my skinny friends, and that was where all my bad associations with body image and just anxiety and all that stuff happened. So when I see the 4 on the scale, I smile. Now, my lowest weight was 135. Too low for me. Definitely, I can't maintain it without being fairly drastic and very, very restrictive in my diet, and that's not how I want to live. But I think we all have these like emotional attachments to specific numbers, and I think trying to remember that and see them from the outside and not focus on them or let it derail us from our goals, not weight loss goals, but our overall like life goals, is success in my mind. So, you know, when I get on the scale and I see 150, 151, 153 or whatever, you know, me, that's my little, right now I'm hovering between 148 and 153, and I just keep doing that on the smaller scale. But day in and day out, it's not this let it go. I don't, like you said, and you said it in your question 2 to 3 times. I just let it go. I just let myself go. I'm not letting myself go, even if some number on the scale is telling me that I shouldn't or should, or like the number is there, and I compartmentalize it. Or compartmentalize it, or whatever I'm trying to say. But I try to like put it in a little package and go, okay, the scale says this. That's nice. Okay, it kind of sucks, but whatever, it's cool. And I kind of go, all right, but it's time to make a healthy breakfast. Oh, it's time to go for a run. Oh, it's time to take my kids on a walk after dinner. And so the number is there, but you know, and I don't know, maybe I'm being kind of cheesy and metaphorical or whatever, but I try to go, and this is why I started the weigh-in. For myself, I like to weigh in. I want to make sure that I'm maintaining, and it gives me a sense of motivation, and I feel like I'm helping those who also need that check-in. But at the same time, and some people might not believe me, it's the opposite of becoming obsessed with it. I know some people are like, yeah, whatever, you weigh in weekly, you're obsessed. Fine, you can think that. But for me, I'm checking in, and I need that accountability. I want the accountability. I like the accountability. I like to see how my body reacts to things that I'm doing. It's knowledge. It's information. So don't look at the 180 like this barrier you're never going to get through, or a measure of success or failure. It's something that you're just aware of, and you're using it in your calculations, and it's another tool. It's another thing. You just need to stop the obsession with it, and you will break through it. You might not break through it. I know. I think you said you're 5'2", 180, and you actually got down to 150 for some times, but then you let yourself go. Stop letting yourself go, and don't let the number be the thing that pushes you off that track. And just look at it as information. And I don't know. I'm going to get into this later with another question. It is kind of hard, but just know, Patricia, that I totally understand. Totally understand where you're coming from. Totally understand the preoccupation with the number. And totally understand feeling like you'll never get below something. I really never thought I would get below 150. And I've been, overall, minus pregnancy, I was maintaining a 145 weight for years until I got pregnant. And then, of course, I gained with the pregnancy. And then, sorry, I think someone's coming in. And then after that, I'm still trying to get back there after the baby, but it will happen. Next question is from Heather. And Heather says, Ronnie, with exclamation point. I feel like I know you. You're like my friend in my head that I reference with regards to making meals, eating in general, and working out. This has a small question at the end, but mostly I just wanted to thank you and send you letting you know I read your note. Okay, so I'm going to skip over because Heather actually, and I actually emailed Heather already and let her know that I got her email, even though that was months ago. But she was telling me she read my archives and stuff like that, which was really cool. So here's her one question. My one question, although like I said, I just really wanted to write to tell you about my recent obsession with your blog. I find myself hungry as soon as I get into the car after work. It does not matter what time of day or night it is. It does not matter what or when I've eaten while at work. I just automatically assume hunger. I've been repeating to myself, hunger is not an emergency, which is an old post of mine, a couple of them actually. And that's actually worked sometimes. I just wondered if you had any other suggestions for how to decipher between eating out of habit or actually knowing if you're hungry. Okay, I love this question because I am also one that eats out of habit and eats out of reward and eats out of boredom and I like to eat. It's just something that I do. But there are times when and I do have some strategies for this. Well, and I've talked about this in the past. Part of it is, I think, sometimes you have to go with it. So meaning, I think there are times when you know you're not hungry and you know you just want to eat for whatever reasons. It could be emotional. It could be physical. It could whatever. I don't know. It's just there's just something there. There's some switch that's been turned on and you're like, oh, I just want to sit down here and eat this entire package of Oreo cookies. I could do it. It's been done. Okay, so, and I think when we fight those feelings day in and day out, it's inevitable that there's just one time when we're going to lose the battle. And I think my strategy, and this has been working for me, there's two things I want to say. I'm trying to like, one, this has been working for me. Sometimes I don't fight it. I re-aim. Does that make sense? So if I'm standing there at the pantry and I'm like, oh my God, I really just want to eat right now. I really just want to eat. Now, I could use distraction techniques. I could take a bath. I could try to read. I could go for a walk. They sometimes work. But more times than not, I kind of still need to eat. So I'll eat something else that is kind of like what I wanted to eat, but no, I just had this conversation with my friend Danielle. So if I really want to order a pizza, I'm having this craving, like, oh, I need to order a pizza, and literally I would be able to sit and eat the whole pizza. I've done it before. I used to order stuffed crust pizzas, and they were like a weakness for me. Instead, I'll make a pizza with whatever I have. I'll use a tortilla shell or English muffin, and I have to heat up the oven, and then I grate the cheese, and then I figure out what we use for a sauce, because usually I don't have sauce on hand. So then I'm like, oh, I'll use some sliced tomatoes, or use tomato paste with spices, or something. And there's this inherent satisfaction for me, and the process of cooking and making it and meeting this out and then waiting for it to cook and then eating, that cures that for some reason. So it may not be, sure, I could have dialed Domino's and ordered a pizza and had a pizza in my doorstep in 20 minutes or less. And consumed 8,000 extra calories right before I went to bed. Or I can spend that 20 minutes and I can have a little fun in the kitchen and get creative and try something new, and you know what I mean? So that helps me. It does. It helps me. There's an outlet. Now I understand not everybody likes to cook. So, but I think there is a level that you have to start taking ownership of what you eat, and letting other people prepare for your food for you all the time is not a good thing. You have to learn how to start to not get things out of a package or delivered to your house. You know what I mean? I just think it's good. I just think it's good for you. There's been times, and I've said this many times before, where I'll keep, especially now in these like nice cool months, in the fall months, I'll keep squash, acorn, butternut, delicata. Now I've gotten into the, what is it called? Kobachi, all this. And so if I'm having one of those moments, or if it's that certain time of month where I just want to munch or something, I'll bake up a huge batch of squash fries and literally eat the whole batch. Sure, so I just ate 4 pounds of squash, but it's squash. And it satisfied that like need to feel full, that need, you know, sometimes we have this need to want to eat. And that helps me a lot. It just does. But that's not really what you're asking. You're really asking how to decipher between that real hunger and the need to eat hunger, which, you know what I mean, this desire to eat when you're not really hungry. And somebody left this comment on one of my posts not that long ago, a few months ago, I would say, when I talked about this. And their technique has stuck with me. I don't know who it was, so I'm sorry I'm not crediting, but their technique has stuck with me. And it was fruit. And not like, oh, fruit's the answer, just eat fruit and fruit is free. It's not that. It's if you're really hungry, an apple will sound good to you. You know what I mean? Or what, grapes will sound good to you. And you know what? It's like an earworm in me now. So like there are times, like especially for me, the kids are in bed, the husband's got his bag of Doritos. And I'm like, ooh, I want something. I don't know what I want. And then I'll catch myself and I'll go, wait, should I have an apple? And then if I don't want the apple, like if that's like doesn't sound good, and I think, you know what? You're not really that hungry. You're not hungry. You just want to eat right now. And that's helped me a lot. It's like the weirdest, littlest thing. The hunger is not emergency works too. But this is more of a, it's more of a reminder. It's kind of like what you tell kids. Like, again, I'm raising kids, so they're going to get interjected in everything I think of. But like if I make dinner, I made this like sausage and pepper potato thing the other day. And Ryan didn't want to eat the potatoes. He was just like, I don't want to eat the potatoes. I was like, well, if you're hungry, you'll eat them. And it's true. You know, so then I said, and I don't force my kids to eat. So he ate the sausage and he ate the peppers. And then he said, okay, I'm done. I'm like, all right, you're done. 5 minutes later, he goes, well, can I have dessert? No. You didn't eat your whole meal. I said, if you're hungry, you'll eat the potatoes. And it's true. If you're hungry, you'll eat that thing that you think is not good, but is going to be nutrients for you. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if that came out right. I don't know if I'm making much sense, but the idea that if you're really searching for something to eat because of a physical hunger, then an apple will sound good. But if you're really searching something to eat to fill a void or fill an emotion, then sometimes that apple's like, yeah, no, I want a bag of Doritos. I want a box of Oreo cookies, or you know what I mean? And then you realize it and you recognize what's happening. And then you can try to divert that into making something healthier, or going for a walk, taking a bath, all your distraction methods or something like that. So anyway, I think that's a great question. I think it's something that a lot of us struggle with. A lot of us eaters struggle with. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then I actually have to cut it short because I know everyone's coming back and I'm going to be invaded with kids in my house any second. So please forgive me. All right, so last question for this week. And I promise to do another podcast in November. And I just realized I promised earlier I said I wouldn't promise, but I still promise. Because I do have fun and I have so many questions that I need to get to. Okay. So last question is from Jules. And Jules says, Ronnie, I have no motivation and need help. My son is 6 months old and I want to try and start to shed my baby weight. I was an avid runner pre-baby and now have no time to do anything. Any advice? Okay. Jules, when you have a baby, I'm assuming this is your first, you have to make time for yourself. And that sounds selfish and it sounds like not what a new mom should be doing, but you need to make time for yourself. If that means investing in a running stroller or finding a hand-me-down or going to a consignment shop so that you can run with baby, by all means, then that's what you need to do. If dad is around or a caregiver or a friend or somebody who can watch the baby for a half hour while the baby's napping so you can get a little 20-minute run in, that's what you need to do. My advice would be, and mind you, I'm not saying that's what you need to do because you need to run, but to me it sounds like you want to run, but you cannot figure out how to put all the puzzle pieces together to make that happen for yourself. And what I'm trying to say is you have to figure out and make that happen for yourself because you'll be happier, and happier moms are better moms. So start small. Steal 10 minutes. If you have 10 minutes, and I know everyone says sleep when the baby's sleeping and do all that stuff, but it's not realistic. So start small. Take 10 minutes and try to get in a 3/4 of a mile, I don't know what your pace is, but and try to do that for a week or two, and then slowly up your commitment if you have childcare. And then if you don't, see if you can get a running stroller. And if it's really not possible, I mean, one of the best things, my now little bean is 18 months. I can't even believe I'm saying that out loud. He loves going for the run in the rolling stroller. And he loved it when he was that young. He really did. I mean, he's getting fresh air. He's out. There's a breeze on his face. There's noises all around. It's stimulating. I think it's wonderful for them. So, and now that he is older and he can express I've heard him giggling to himself while I'm running in the running stroller. He's just having a good time. Sometimes he has a snack. He's got a little granola bar and his little bottle of water, and I'm pushing, and he's like, I'm running. So I'm here to tell you that you should make the time. It is hard. And, you know, I don't know your situation. I don't know how much support you have. But, so, you know, care or no care, if you have, you know, external care or no care, you could find a way to do it, even if you just steal 10 to 15 minutes a day to start. And then, you know, you'll start to want it more. And you have to figure out ways in which you can fit it in. If you went back to work, maybe you could do it during your lunch at work or take a break at work. There's just so many ways. And it really comes down to prioritizing it and figuring out a way to fit it into your schedule. And I think saying that you don't have time, frankly, it's an excuse. If it's something you really want, then you'll find the time. God, that sounds so mean, but it's, as I get older, I'm coming out there and saying it. You could find the time. You could steal 10 minutes and run a mile, and that'll gonna be a baby step back towards your goal. Okay, I'm gonna go. Thanks for listening or watching, and I hope I still have listeners or watchers, because I know it's been a while, and I will be back next month. I promise. Even with the holidays coming. All right, bye guys. Thanks for watching.